friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Chase, and today I am reviewing AEW Dynamite from June 28th, 2023. Not the best Dynamite I have ever seen. It was not the worst, but I can't say I enjoyed this edition of Dynamite for many reasons that we will get into. But before we get to that, let me just remind you that one, if you're watching this and thinking, oh my gosh, I would love to watch Stephanie record her Dynamite reviews live, well, you can if you become a member of this channel or a member of my Patreon. That is patreon.com/Stephanie Chase. You can find all the info there. There's lots of different tiers of how you can support me and get extra content. I also put up an extra video every week. My video this week is giving my predictions for Money in the Bank, which I will be attending in London on Saturday. And hopefully next week, I'll have a nice little video all about my experience attending Money in the Bank. I also have an OnlyFans if it's more your thing. But if you just want to show some support for my content, make sure you are subscribed to my channel and give this video a like and leave a comment. Like, that's how you crack the algorithm, apparently. And I've been trying so hard to crack this algorithm. So every little helps. And go to my channel and check out what I posted this week, which is my review of AEW Fight Forever, AEW's first video game, the long-awaited video game. What did I think of it? Did I create myself? Of course I did. You can head to my YouTube channel and you can find that video now on my channel. But let's get into this Dynamite. Now, I said I wasn't a big fan of this show, but I cannot hate on this opening match because we had Tomohiro Ishii versus Jon Moxley. This was really, really good. Of course, it's Moxley and Ishii, so it was so hard hitting. But then we also had the storyline that is going on with Eddie Kingston, who came out in the middle of this match to a massive pop, of course, because Kingston is always over as fuck, even though he never gets that big singles push. He came out to make sure that Claudio could not interfere. Moxley won this match with the Death Rider. Afterwards, Eddie was like, congratulations, you did it all by yourself without your gang. And Moxley just brushed right past him. Really, really good match. Ishii, great opponent for Moxley. It was just so cool to see this hard-hitting, violent match going out on inside the ring, and then the storyline stuff on the outside with Eddie and Claudio. There's more fun to come with that, but I just love Eddie so much. And it's actually sad that he's going away to Japan for like a month very soon. But I thought this was a really good opener. I love when Dynamite just opens with a really fun, gripping match, and this was it. And I think this match was my highlight of the entire show. I'm not saying it was all downhill from there, but I thought that nothing on the show like rose to the heights of how good Moxley and Ishii were. But more on the Moxley Kingston storyline in a bit. Then we have Renee backstage, and she was talking about Adam Cole and MJF being teammates in the Blind Eliminator tournament. Now, we didn't end up finding out the brackets for this tournament. This tournament is so weird. It's like they've been so secretive over it. They have barely told us what it is, and now we haven't even got a bracket reveal. But anyway, Adam Cole arrived, and then we had MJF. He was pretty funny because he like congratulated Adam Cole for pretending to be sick to get out of his Forbidden Door match and said, I wish I'd thought of that. That did make me laugh. MJF suggested that him and Adam Cole spend the weekend together to bond, and Cole like reluctantly agreed to that. And then MJF unveiled his new shirt that says better than you, baby. I guess this is their team shirt, probably better than Y2AJ, but yeah, this was fun. I'm not into the storyline of can these two coexist as a team or whatever, but I guess it's not something that AEW has driven into the ground like WWE, so we'll see where we go for it. But at least MJF made me laugh here. Then we had Renee again, but this was a very good segment. She was backstage and she was furious at Jon Moxley, who was with Claudio, Yuta. And then Eddie Kingston walked in and told him that he'd always had Moxley's back, but Moxley was palling around with Claudio a scumbag. Moxley said that he doesn't care about some Shakara shit, which I thought was a really good line. It was like a nod to people that know that Eddie has hated Claudio for like over a decade. Whereas I think that the more, I don't want to say casual fans, but the fans that don't have that history of Eddie Kingston, it probably like went over their head. And then Renee just like flipped out and was like, you better sort this. And she was really angry, and she did some really good acting, actually, way better than like what we usually see from the wrestlers. Yeah, I thought this was a really good segment, and I actually liked Renee's inclusion. I usually wouldn't like that, but they don't really hide the fact that Renee and Moxley are married, and I thought it was a good way of showing that this whole issue with Kingston is so bad that it's obviously affecting his home life in a way where his wife has to step in and say, like, stop this shit now. Then we find out that Britt Baker versus Ruby Soho isn't happening because Britt is sick, so get well soon, Britt. Then we had Orange Cassidy teaming with Vikingo and Keith Lee to defeat Daniel Garcia, Matt Menard, and Angelo Parker. Now, they had a fun video package before that showed how Orange Cassidy selected his partners. He's so lazy, he just selected the first two guys he saw, Keith Lee and Vikingo. Keith Lee has dyed his hair back to black, and I must say he looks a whole lot better than he has with the gray hair. I thought this match was pretty fun, but it wasn't very smooth. It certainly wasn't the best use I'd ever seen of Vikingo. I'm not sure there was that much chemistry going in the ring. Obviously Danny was in it, so I enjoyed that. I won't do a Danny rant this week, but he needs to get away from the JS. I think that he's gotten all he can out of this. His dancing is very over. It's very funny when he does it. I laugh every time. So I think he's gained what he can from being in the JS, and he has to break away. I wish 2.0 would break away too, because you rarely ever see them wrestle on television. So it was just a novelty to see them actually wrestle and remember, like, oh yeah, these guys actually exist. And the win came when Lee hit the supernova on Daddy Magic. So fun match. Good to see Danny on TV. Good to see 2.0. I like that Keith Lee has changed up his look. Orange Cassidy, I'm hoping this leads to Danny getting a title shot with Orange Cassidy again. And I'm still holding out hope that he can be the one that defeats him. But I wouldn't bet on it again, because I did put money on it at Forbidden Door, and I think I reached my limit on actually betting on Danny now. But fun match, but certainly not anywhere near as good as the opener. Then backstage, we saw the Young Bucks and Hangman Page, who had like basically put out an open challenge for 6-man. And then the Dark Order appeared, John Silver, Evil Uno, and Alex Reynolds, who accepted the challenge. And at first, Hangman thought that they were trying to like join their team, but no, because Hangman has been ignoring them now that he's back with his friends in the Elite, they're pissed and they want to fight him. Then we got Renee backstage with Jericho and Sammy Guevara ahead of their main event match. So basically, Jericho said he's bringing the Painmaker tonight, and that's going to make the match bigger than Forbidden Door. Sammy didn't say much. He also referenced his history with Sting, saying the match should be on TBS and commentated by Tony Schiavone. So I think it was on commentary they referenced how this match was set up, Jericho going wild at a press conference. And I'm just going to say that I'm going to talk about the scrum at the end of this video, because I felt really about the whole thing, and I really want to like address it, but I don't want to ruin my Dynamite review by talking it in the middle of it. So at the end of this video, I'm just going to tack on me giving my actual thoughts on what went down in that scrum as far as the angle they shot with Jericho and Sting. Then we got the match between the Young Bucks and Hangman taking on the Dark Order's Evil Uno, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds. Okay, this match was confusing but good storyline wise. I think because the association between the Dark Order and Hangman was so strong for so long, yeah, I think we definitely did need some kind of like resolution, or harking back to like, why are these guys not friends? And yeah, I guess he did kind of abandon them when the Elite came back to him. But then also the Young Bucks were acting totally heelish, which is weird because the Elite have been getting cheered so much in Canada and Punk has been getting booed. So I thought it was odd to put the Young Bucks in a position where it was like you wanted the crowd not to like them. And then Hangman, he has kind of treated the Dark Order badly. So were we not meant to like Hangman either? But then in the match, Hangman was doing all these like spots where he doesn't want to beat up the Dark Order, but then in the end, he does because he hits a buckshot lariat on John Silver. So all the storyline stuff was pretty muddled, and it also felt a bit out of nowhere too. Like, why are we doing this particular week? Why are we doing this match? And the crowd seemed totally dead for it. The only time I really heard the crowd was when they were clearly trying to shut down a CM Punk chant, but I didn't really feel like they were into the match. When they did get into stuff was after the match when Moxley, Claudio, Wheeler all came in to attack the Elite. Takeshita and Don Callis also came in, and then John Moxley was like busted open Page with a screwdriver, and then Eddie Kingston came down and he was just like totally beaten down by Castelloni and Yuta, and Claudio like trapped his arm in the chair, and Moxley didn't see that, but the camera didn't really pick up what he was doing either. And then Moxley said it was time to end the feud once and for all, and he announced Blood and Guts July 19th at the TD Garden in Boston. But unfortunately, Eddie Kingston won't be in that match because he's doing the G1. I think he's wrestling Evil that night. So not too keen on the Elite Dark Order match. I did really like the stuff that happened afterwards. I think the Blood and Guts match is going to be really good. I just wish that Eddie Kingston could be in it, because to me, Eddie Kingston is what has breathed new life into this feud that has been going on for ages, because it feels like Eddie's hatred for Claudio is stronger than anything we've seen between the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club, but he's the guy that's not going to be in Blood and Guts. So fine match, much better angle at the end, but I do wish they'd hold off Blood and Guts till Eddie can do it. Then we had Roderick Strong approaching Adam Cole backstage and telling him he can't trust MJF. And then MJF walked up and said hi to Adam and the generic white guy. And then MJF said that he wants to leave, and him and Cole left together for their team bonding. This was just funny as well. And maybe they can do some funny vignettes that they can play next week on Dynamite about how Adam Cole and MJF spent the weekend together. I don't know, maybe they do some mini golf, maybe they do some bowling, maybe they go out in the town, maybe they go to Vegas like the Inner Circle did once. I don't know, a fun little vignette with MJF would be pretty good. Okay, let's get to something I absolutely hated. Jungle Boy came out to do his heel promo. He was in a leather jacket. He was in sunglasses. Basically, early on in this promo, he had a line that was, this isn't verbatim, that he's still banging the hottest bitch in AEW. Once that line came out of Jungle Boy's mouth, I was done with this. I do not like men referring to women or their girlfriend as bitch in any context, even if it's, you know, maybe meant to be complimentary. It's not the same as women referring to themselves as a bitch. I was totally turned off by this. I really question who like wrote this, whether Jungle Boy wrote it or someone wrote it for him or helped him through it, that thought this was an okay line to say. The whole thing was bad, crass, cheap heat stuff anyway, but that particularly offended me. I don't want to hear that on AEW. I don't want to hear that on TV. I don't care if it's a heel saying it. This just made me mad. And if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know it made me mad, and I expressed that. And of course, just a bunch of men start arguing in my replies about it. I get No, I don't actually get it. If you don't understand why I find it offensive for words like that to be used by women. And, for the record, I don't like when men call women chicks either. I don't like expressions like your woman or his woman that we heard quite a lot on TV, like last month or whenever. I don't like any of that stuff at all. And if you're really struggling to understand things, and sometimes the only way, sometimes I think the only way guys can understand this if they think it in is if they think of it in the context of if they had a daughter. If you had a daughter, would you want her A, to hear this, or B, someone say it about her? And if the answer is no to both of those, then you shouldn't be saying it about any woman. Yeah. If you want to turn Jungle Boy heel, this guy's an AEW original, and he was a huge baby face. You should have a way better plan of action for him than for him to get out there and cut like the cheapest promo possible, where he says he's banging the hottest bitch. Great. Anyway, Hook came out, he ran away. We'll see what happens next week. They then played Sammy Guevara's entrance music, and I thought, oh, we've got half an hour to go and we're starting the main event. It's going to be a long one. But no, he was doing cue cards into the break. Okay. And if you thought that meant you wouldn't hear Sammy Guevara's music again 10 minutes later, you were wrong. Ruby Soho then had a match against Alexa Nicole. It was just a squash match. It was all because Britt was unwell and they weren't able to do their first round Owen Hart tournament match. Afterwards, Ruby cut a promo on Britt that I thought was pretty good. And I thought this was one of the better outings for the Outcasts, maybe because they actually got promo time and it wasn't like some silly attack on a baby face where the baby faces are always outnumbered or not enough people run out or whatever. I thought this was pretty good. And I'm glad they gave them actual mic time on TV. And Ruby did a really good job. You don't hear a promo much, but this was positive, much better than Jack Perry. Okay, then on to the main event. Sting and Darby Allin defeating the Painmaker, Chris Jericho, and Sammy Guevara. Okay. This match, firstly, this feud between Chris Jericho and Sting. I am someone that started watching wrestling with WCW, and Sting and Chris Jericho are two of the first wrestlers I ever remember watching. So it's a really big deal that they're in the ring together, but I think all that's kind of been lost with how this feud has been built up and the choices they've made along the way. Having Sammy in it, I think, just muddies it all, like that he's part of the storyline too. I would rather Sting and Jericho just built up something against each other than, just this constant pushing of Sammy, instead of it being like these two legends finally facing off, it's like two dads who have different ideas of parenting skills, with Darby, with Sting, and Sammy being with Jericho. And Sting near killed himself in this match, jumping from a ladder. And once that happened, I felt like my heart leap out of my chest. I thought that was so distressing. I'm not usually like the safety police, but this was wild that he thought it was a good idea to do this, especially after what had happened during his Forbidden Door match. And it honestly just shocked and scared me so much that I couldn't enjoy the rest of this match at all. So Sting, please stop doing these dangerous stunts. You have Jericho here who's putting on the Painmaker gimmick, and apparently that's meant to be scary and make him tougher or something, where nothing seems to change. But Sting, who's been putting on face paint his whole career, he's the one doing the crazy stuff. Like, you're not seeing Jericho doing any of this crap, and not that I want him to, but I mean, I don't know what the point of doing the Painmaker gimmick on this night was. I also think if it's like so important and meaningful, doing it on a Dynamite in the second match in your feud is just kind of throwing it away. I think that there were some good moments like towards the end where Jericho and Sting were in the ring together, but really after the ladder spot, I was just taken out of it. And I'm just kind of tapped out on this feud too already. I don't know how they can change it to like build up the intrigue of seeing Jericho and Sting in a one-on-one match, but I think this match definitely made me not want to see them in a one-on-one match. I don't think that's going to be any better. There would have been a huge novelty to seeing Jericho and Sting fight each other. That's been made way less by these two tag matches that they've been in. So yeah, my assessment of that match was just, it didn't feel right timing wise with where they are the feud. It didn't feel like it was built up correctly. Well, the way it was built up was really bad, but I'll talk about that in a minute. The risk of that Sting took was completely unnecessary. So I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed in how they've done this Jericho Sting stuff. But the way stuff is in AEW at the moment, with the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club having their feud, with CM Punk over in Collision with MJF as champion, I just don't think there's space in the top end of the card to do a feud between two legends, if you know what I mean. There's just not room for them to give this the focus and the attention that it deserves. And there's probably an idea that they're trying to elevate Sammy and Darby by having their connection there, but I think it's just watering down the stuff between Jericho and Sting. So those were my thoughts on AEW Dynamite. I feel like this has been a shorter review than usual. Maybe it's because I'm conscious of the fact that very soon I have to leave to go to London for Money in the Bank. But this Dynamite just left me feeling, loved the first match. I loved the Renee stuff with Moxley. I thought that was super cool. Then I really did not like that Jungle Boy promo. I really, really didn't like it. And I don't want to see that. And then I spent a lot of time being worried about Sting. And so it just fell flat for me as a Dynamite. It did. Okay, I said earlier in the video that I wanted to talk about the Forbidden Door scrum. I wanted to talk about it because honestly, like, I feel like a fraud or a shithouse if I don't. And if you don't know specifically what I'm talking about, at this Forbidden Door scrum, I wasn't there. They did an angle between Jericho and Sting when Sting was taking questions, where Jericho hit a water bottle with a baseball bat, and it hit a member of the media. His name is John Muse. On my Forbidden Door review, I briefly mentioned that I thought it was really bad, but I had said so much regarding the scrums on my Double or Nothing video that I didn't go into more detail, and I was just angry about it. And Forbidden Door was such an amazing show. And I said on the Forbidden Door review that Forbidden Door was an example of what I love about wrestling and why I love wrestling so much. And I think that this scrum incident is a great example of why I find being in wrestling media and the treatment of wrestling media so frustrating, to the point where I don't like it a lot of the times. But I've been thinking about it, a lot over the past couple of days. And also about how little I've heard people talking about it. On the post-wrestling review of Forbidden Door, John Pollock, who was there, he spoke very well about the incident, and I'm going to be echoing everything that John said. And he said that he was upset about it, and I have tremendous respect for John Pollock. I wasn't surprised that he was the person willing to talk about how much he disagreed with it. So I'm in total agreement with his thoughts. And on his show with Brandon Thurston today, they talked about it again really well. So I'd urge you to check out John and Brandon talking about it. I said before that I don't think scrums should be in kayfabe, whether that's the wrestlers answering in character or kayfabe questions being asked. But if you want to ask a kayfabe question, that's your personal decision, and I'm not going to dunk on anyone else for what they decide to do with the time or the opportunity that they're given. But I just feel like in order for journalists to get anything out of these scrums, it should all be on the level. And Tony Khan, if he's going to be there the whole time answering proper questions at the end, about like TV deals or whatever, then that should be the entire tone of it, not him, making these reactions when MJF, who of course I know will never break character, is like insulting people. He does that and then he turns around later and is like talking about these serious stuff. I can't put my feelings better than how John Pollock said it. He said that the media are not props. And that's true. And if you want to run an angle, God knows you have enough TV time to do that. Plus, like social media, it doesn't have to be done in a scrum. It puts the media in an awkward position to even be involved in this. And then in this one, you have Jericho with a bat, like banging it and then hitting a water bottle towards where people were sitting. And of course, he didn't mean to hit anyone. And I understand that. And I'm not accusing him of doing it maliciously. And John Muse has said that he's okay and that AEW was like very concerned and apologetic, but it was a really bad judgment call to do the angle, and it was a bad judgment call by Jericho to hit the bottle, and it all could have been so much worse. And honestly, they're lucky that John Muse took this the way that he did. He took it well. But at the end of the day, I think you have to ask yourself, what's the point of these scrums? If it's to do angles and storylines, then what's the point of the media members sitting there for 2 hours? Like, you're filming this. It's not as if you need us to tweet it out. And I travel a long way to these shows. I spend a ton of money, and the scrum is the only opportunity that we get to do any like interviewing, asking questions while an AEW pay-per-view weekend is going on. They don't do junkets like WWE's doing for Money in the Bank, for example. So of course I'm still going to go to the scrums, but I'd love AEW and Tony to think about it from that perspective. Like, I'm sure no one from AEW is going to watch this, but from that perspective of like, why are we here? I know like you want us to cover AEW, and of course you want us to positively cover AEW, and I'm not sure that doing something like this helps any of us. And I don't think it's a exaggeration to say that it all just seems quite disrespectful. And Jericho has been in the business a really long time, and I would assume that he must know a lot of journalists, and I'm sure he knows many that don't agree with these kind of things happening in scrums. And I think maybe he should take into consideration what people that actually work hard at this think about something like this, and people that want to do this and cover this business seriously. I think some people at the scrums are there who like love kayfabe and are there more just wanting to like see the wrestlers up close. And I'm not gonna dunk on anyone, and I don't agree with dunking on anyone, but I've seen like someone say they'd be honored if Jericho hit them. And I think if that's your reaction to this as a member of the media, I'm not sure that you're actually giving the business the right amount of respect to be covering it. And I think I've been thinking a lot recently about what is my place in the industry, and who am I, and who do I want to be. And it's very hard figuring that out. I think in wrestling media doesn't get much respect. And within itself, I think only about just under 5 men are actually like respected at all. And, you know, I'm not in that category. And maybe, you know, you think I'm not worthy of respect because I write for an entertainment site. So I just do interviews with wrestlers. And I don't, you know, I'm not like getting scoops or coming up with my own news. And I have an OnlyFans, so that, you know, possibly I can't be taken seriously at all. But when I make my own content, I always want to be as honest as possible with everything I do and everything I say. And I think if I could do anything in this business, I think I would like to push it forward and make it something that people understand and respect more. And I think the business has to respect itself first. And I think when, you know, AEW is an amazing company and they do so many great things. But there's been quite a few times that, you know, I've just been disappointed in them because I wanted them to be better. And I think the idea of them doing these scrums initially was really cool, and Tony like being transparent to the media. But what happened at the Forbidden Door one like was not cool at all. And they are lucky that it didn't go worse. And I would really not like to see that happen again. And yeah, those are just my feelings on it. I would love to see the media like get respect, and also like respect itself. And I would love to see the whole wrestling business be like respected, wrestling be respected for the great art form that it is. But you know, there's such a history of like weird stuff when it comes to kayfabe that we still haven't figured out, you know, in 2023. And all of this stuff that I said is stuff that I would have no problem saying to Tony, or, you know, even Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is usually, I've interviewed him a couple of times, and he's usually a very good interviewee, and he's usually very insightful and doesn't kayfabe bullshit you. So this is like a disappointing change of tone, because I've seen him do these scrums before, and he's not one of the people that comes out and stays in character. Like, he's more like how Brian was. Like this scrum, you had that, and then you had Brian opening up so well. And you know, when I was at Double or Nothing, Daniel Bryan was the highlight too. So I guess, you know, if everyone came out and acted like Brian, then the scrums would be worthwhile, because it would be a great opportunity to ask questions and have a dialogue with a wrestler. That's just my opinion on what happened. I was really upset on Sunday when I was trying to fall asleep and I saw this incident, and that was before I knew that John Hughes had gotten hit by the bottle. And then I was upset on Monday when I was thinking all about it, and just thinking like, I don't know, it's hard to know who to be or what to do sometimes in situations. But I guess the best thing to do is be yourself and be honest about what you think. Anyway, if anyone made it through this rant, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching my content. Even though I sometimes get really angry about stuff and take stuff very seriously, but that's me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my video. Please subscribe. I'll catch you next time. And I promise my next Dynamite review will be much better, no matter what Dynamite it is. Bye.